LVO was here, and we wanted to sing along, but unfortunately, singing along to an hour commercial discussing our backgrounds and interests yielded almost 3 hours of audio. After spending almost a week trying to maintain the stamina to edit, I'm breaking this episode. I'm breaking it down. So this part goes through our hobby progress, shares some comments on the opening of the stream, deeply discusses Primaris Flash Gitz, before taking a look at the box of Cultists vs. Dark Angels. Not the old box of Cultists vs. Dark Angels. This is the new Primaris Cultists vs. Dark Angels. Future parts will discuss the other stuff, but for now, let's start with Space Marines after some progress. Treecast is composed from a live audience of
Space Marines!
It was not suitable for consumption by minors.
Hello there.
Hello. That's about all we've got to say, really. It's been a very disorganized year so far.
January's almost over, the worst month of the year. We can get back to normalcy soon.
But it's our first episode.
Is it?
No.
No, we put one out this year. We've put one out this year. There's no need to celebrate. We've already done that. I did think
I should have opened the box wine, not that 3-year out-of-date bottle of whatever that is. What are we doing? We're doing a Treecast episode. I think this is the first time I've had all the slides ready ahead of time.
Yeah.
We're almost organized.
Yeah. And I don't know how much of the news we're going to cover because a lot of it's still unfolding and may sound stupid to just talk about now. So, yeah, we're Treecast. We all like the little tiny things that come to life and tell imaginary stories. We're not horribly bothered about the little tiny things that come to life and tell real stories, although Aimee may be an exception to that. But I haven't seen any World War II soldiers around Tammy's. It's cold, so we're recording over Skype.
Yes, we are. It's lovely to be back. We haven't been gone too long. It wasn't that long ago we did the last one. But there's been some developments that have nicely kind of brought us into another podcast, which is the LVO reveal. So we'll be talking all about that, and I'm looking forward to it. There's some good, some bad.
I have opinions on the Space Marines.
Awesome.
You're not the only one.
So if you're not listening to us right now and want to listen to us, you can listen to us on Acast, which puts us on all of the bunch of places. And we have the little icon with the tree, and it's ours. I mean, I think it's Aimee's more than anyone else's, but that's we are also on YouTube, and on the YouTubes we are actually consistently getting videos out on Mondays. Stretchiest definition of that was a few weeks ago when I had something and it was on Tuesdays, so I put a short out on Monday, and I think the short did better than the actual video. But
shorts have a tendency of doing that, or you've noticed.
Yeah, the shorts always get much more views than the actual videos, so if you're listening to this, please go and watch all the rest of our videos, especially the long form ones that we put lots of work into. Unless
you hate listening to us. If you hate listening to us, just mute the tab from the control bar and then play it anyway. Anyway, so this is the part where we talk about the things we painted.
Yeah.
Because most of the podcasts seem to do that, but it's done offhandedly. And it's like, no, look what Aimee did. Come on, there we go. These were all Aimee. I know the middle one looks like that one that everyone was happy about, but Aimee you were like, I can do that.
Yeah, I thought I'd have a go at that kind of style. It seemed a lot of fun. I didn't quite get the Craft World Studios vibe to it, but I think there's some cool stuff going on that I'm interested in kind of playing with those ideas and taking them further. So that was just a quick little thing I've done recently in the last week or so. Other than that, I've been getting through Bad Squiddo commissions like there's no tomorrow. A lot of these are from Ristal Creations, I believe.
He's the sculptor?
Yes. I've just had a bit of fun with these, really. Just, playing around with some different kind of atmospheric-y, non-metallic metals and just like kind of painterly style on some of them. Trying to get that kind of, how the tardigrades look in the images where they're like computer generated and different colors and stuff.
I am immediately drawn to that very funky orc with the
banner
synthwave colors and everything. Pink on orcs is just inspired anyway. But
Yeah. My orcs it's neon pink and yellow green on them. They started off as being they're very kind of rave inspired, and then it's kind of evolved into more of like Prodigy and Skiller. And I've got the classic kind of cartoon image of Keith Flint from I think it was the back of the Fat of the Land it was originally from.
Yeah.
And just kind of done him up as an orc. Yeah,
nice.
And he's going to be my war boss. I'm the mega boss. I'm converting him, just like giving him some hair when I get round to that.
Yeah.
So you've got these 3 scrapyard punch dummies. Training dummies.
That was just really fun, just quick little exercise in just covering them in rust and weathering them up and getting some nice bright primary colours, but making them still look kind of dirty and roughed up a bit.
It hadn't occurred to me you were going for a CGI thing with the tardigrades. Now that you mention it, it's like, oh yeah, if I was going to do it, that's what I'd try. That's how I'd do it. And the non-metallic metal on the scenery bits is something that hadn't occurred to me because they just looked good. Yes, that's non-metallic metal, of course. That's what's going on. That's why they look good.
Yeah, it's just a lot of trying to just paint light and shadow on that stuff. There's the Bank Vault scenery set and the Reanimation Lab scenery set.
That is a cool set.
The what, sorry?
So that is a really cool looking set.
Yeah.
Tammy likes something that isn't old hammer. We should make a note.
They're just really cool things that I think would be really great if you've got particular kind of narrative games that you need objectives or scenery for. And yeah, they were just a lot of fun to paint. Great kind of canvases to work on.
I always get the sense that Bad Squidoo's stuff is in a certain scale and style. And I don't know if that's just because that's what handcrafted models look like now, or if that's just because that's what the sculptors Annie works with looks like now.
They're all in 28mm because
certain proportions and in slightly enlarged heads. And I'm always curious if that's a brand thing from Annie's end or
kind of. From what I know, obviously I can't speak for her, but from the picture I get, she's focused on 28mm as a range first of all, but may eventually branch out into other ones. And that scale is just kind of the standard scale. A lot of the sculptors who've lived and worked in Nottingham for 40 years or so, that's the scale they like working in, that scale of metal models. And a lot of the smaller companies around here will kind of produce those ones, even though, they're not computer generated. They haven't been made at whatever massive times 3 times scale or whatever and reduced. They're just hand sculpted. They're full of character.
I think she could flog or flaunt the fact that they're still doing everything hand sculpted. Not because it's better or worse. It's just sometimes you want a sparkling white wine and sometimes you want a bottle of Mountain Dew. So just reminding people there is this difference. And if you want to see this difference, if you want a model that was designed by somebody physically holding the little bastard and knowing how big it was.
Yeah. And I don't know. Maybe she has got some CG computer generated ones around somewhere. Most of the ones I've been painted are just these lovely traditional hand sculpts that just remind me so much of old hammer and stuff like that, because it's a lot of the stuff it's sculptors who are working around that period as well. Shall we move on?
If you like, yeah. So I teased Tammy about Old Hammer, but Tammy is good at Old Hammer. Tammy,
yes.
Are these the?
I have finished painting them. I've also finished everything I need for 2 more coaster videos, but we'll come to those later. But yeah, getting my new hobby space set up, and I've painted a squad of 5 original Blood Angel Terminators from 1994. I believe these models first came out.
Oh,
Nice. They look really bright and vibrant. I love the red and yellow.
Yeah, it hurts your eyes to look at them. It's proper second ed.
so I do think it's pretty obvious on the Terminators that they should have had bigger bases at the time, or maybe that was an artistic thing of always trying to look oversized.
Yeah, well, the thing is, at the time, the only round bases you could get from GW were the 25mm ones. Anything that didn't fit on those was going on square bases still, even in 40k. So
Yeah, but come on, it's GW.
It's GW, yeah.
It's the company that's making these, and this is like their flagship. Where's Space Marines their flagship product in '94?
I think in '94 it was still Fantasy Battle that was the number one. But
it was all about the high elves. Everyone had the high elves and the orcs and goblins.
I love the high elves. But
really? I didn't know that.
This is when 40k started catching up.
So in terms of me being an idiot, it never occurred to me before this very moment that there was a time when Games Workshop wasn't reluctantly focused on Space Marine production. I mean, intellectually, it must have happened, but
it was when they were gearing up to, I think, because those plastic ones in that edition were just expanding all the different properties basically and filling it out. And they'd done a rough sketch over Rogue Trader, and then they were just like writing the proper codexes for each faction. And Space Marines, now, was it the plain Space Marines codex first, or did they bring out the Space Wolves first?
The first one was the Space Wolves.
Yeah, but Blood Angels were with Dark Angels and Angels of Death right towards the end of the edition, fairly much.
I think that was quite early on in the edition. I think that was about 95. Because
I was definitely in the hobby at the time.
Yeah, I was. Second edition launched towards the end of 93, but that came with, you had the rule book and you had the war gear, and then you had like the Codex Imperialis book with it, which was like a general codex of everything that was available at the time. And then they started bringing out a lot of new stuff for the Space Wolves, chapter specific stuff for Blood Angels and Dark Angels. So it was the first codex they released was Space Wolves. Codex Ultramarines, I think that was 95 as well, which
it was Codex Ultramarines, not Space Marines. Yeah. Specifically had those.
They had Codex Space Wolves for Space Wolves, Angels of Death for Blood Angels and Dark Angels, and Codex Ultramarines for every other chapter.
Yeah, fairly much.
I think they should bring back dual chapter codices, but that's...
Sorry?
Excuse me if this is super tangential. I am delighted by the idea of them bringing back dual chapter codices, but switching which chapters are paired together every now and again. And along with the dual chapter codex, releasing some kit that can be built for either chapter to keep refreshing the Space Marines line, keep allowing specialization, but also never get stuck in on one thing. But
that's a cool idea. Yeah, I'd like to see that. The dual chapter kit could be an interesting one, yeah.
Like something with Blood Angels and Dark Angels, and they both assemble with robes and swords, but 10 or 15% of the bits are make them into Dark Angels Inner Circle elites, and the other 10 or 20% make them into Blood Angels Possessed. Or who are the crazy ones?
All of them.
Okay, who are the super crazy ones?
The Death Company.
That's the one. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Games Workshop, they do a Death Company Intercessors kit, but what it really is it 5
with an upgrade.
It's 5 Intercessors with a Blood Angels upgrade sprue, and it's 30 quid, which is just absurd. You might as well get 10 and a couple of upgrade kits, and you work out cheaper per model by a lot.
My other thought after suggesting this on Twitter was a Beasts of War, or the Beasts of the Space Marines. That's salamanders and space wolves.
Yeah.
And the kit is you can put either wolf pelts or lizard pelts on them.
Yeah. See, I think in that scenario, Blood Angels and Raven Guard would pair up better.
They both get a special super jump troopers.
Yeah.
And we all act like
Yeah.
we've never seen space Primaris with jump packs. And then the other day, it occurred to me that we have the Corvus Cabal.
No, Shrike.
Shrike, yeah.
Whatever his name is.
It's a Primaris model with a jump pack. It already exists. So just because it exists in Space Marine 2 doesn't mean it's going to be a troop option for the next edition. But it'd be cool if it was an upgrade option. If only they hadn't just sort of having a new Primaris lieutenant that doesn't come with a jump pack.
Yeah. I do want to talk about that kit when we come to it, though. I've got opinions, and they're good ones actually.
But yeah, loving your hobby progress, Tammy. Peter,
yeah, well, the video will. I just want to say the video will be out soon.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
that's what we do.
That's what I did it for.
Oh, we're recording.
Oh my God.
How far are we? We're like 26 minutes in.
Follow me, shot.
Probably chew through about 7 minutes of awkward pauses. It's about 19 minutes of. I have been painting more of the Stormcast because I am belligerently determined to paint the models I own before I buy more models. I'm not super happy with the leader's mustache, but the rest of it, yeah, that is what I do. I'm particularly pleased that the blue armor I've worked out, I can put the first coat of blue, then slobber Null oil all over it, and then come back a day later and dry brush the Cantor blue and get this effect, which previously I did by hand with layering.
Dry brushing is just so much more fun.
Yeah, I will say as well, I think you've improved your photography loads because that's a really clear and vibrant image.
It photo stacked.
Is it? Okay. Looks great. Yeah. All the models are fantastic. I love this. It's I don't think I've noticed in any other pictures before, but they're kind of like, it's almost the Space Wolves colours. It's like
I was going to say that. If you ever wanted to paint a Space Wolf army, you now know the technique.
I think
oh dear.
I have been exhausted and I haven't done nearly as much on anything as I should.
Well,
that chunk might get cut out.
Okay, so I think we should probably go to the LVO stuff, which is kind of like the big draw anyway.
LVO Singalong.
Well, once there was an LVO, and that's not Adam.
Yeah, Alex Doddy. I know the name. I'd assume Adam was like, no, I'm not getting up that early in the morning because
6 a.m. he's old, he doesn't sleep. Why isn't he getting up? I don't know if Adam's actually old. I just know he has gray hair and he predates Duncan. Sorry, I interrupted.
Well, I missed the actual show, obviously. I did not watch it on repeat. I just caught up with the actual reveals themselves. So if you have any kind of talk about anything about the way it was presented you'd like to get out, then go ahead.
Well, I've got this slide and the one at the end to talk about the way it's presented. For the opening, I notice always that they act like this is a normal Twitch stream and their job is to keep people talking when they do these things. And they talk and they talk and they talk and they try to get people to talk and they try to get people to tell them where they're from. And it's like, it's a bit like a concert, but we all know it's scripted, right? And we all know that this level of personality and interaction is a bit.
Yeah.
I mean, to a certain extent, it's like the makeup tutorial you did at the beginning of your blending thing. It's stupid. You're not stupid. It's stupid unless you consider it as part of the medium of YouTube being full of stupid attention getting openings. Stupid is a terrible word here. It's not so much that it's stupid. It's a convention of the format. It's a convention of the contemporary style that these things have.
Yeah.
And in that vein, the makeup thing, the me taking shots of paint, the stupid opening. We know it's Din John, I think, isolated it perfectly and preserved his dignity by creating his inbred brother Daryl. I don't know how your brother's inbred without you being inbred, but Daryl, to do the stupid jokes at the beginning of his videos. So Games Workshop does their opening like they're at a concert and they're about to ask for if they should do an encore or not.
Let's get to the models. That's what we really want to see.
So the
Yeah, the
first thing they
model.
talked about was the Desolator Marines.
I have opinions.
It's a very cool name. I wish it was the name for a Chaos unit, the Desolators.
Kind of like them. I think they look stupid and obnoxious and over the top in the way that Games Workshop should be. Somebody said they looked like they should be orcs, and that sort of clicked with me. Oh, they're Primaris Flash Gitz.
Yeah,
I
fairly much.
I fucking hate them. They look awful.
I know that noise.
And
They look bad as Ultramarines. I would say maybe like some custom-made chat, like it was something like the Angry Marines. Then
Put pelts on them and call them Space Wolves.
I mean, if the weapons were like just knock the size down by about 10%, these look like they would tip over.
Yeah, and they should be carrying them either on shoulders or like proper underslung, not just this like one-handed something that's the same size as the Marine himself.
Yeah.
Hey, remember the 90s? Remember how the weapon part would be made of pewter and the rest of the model would be made of plastic?
You know what? I've got a Blood Angel Devastator that's a plastic Marine with a pewter plasma cannon on his shoulder, and I've been working very hard to try and balance him so that he doesn't keep tipping over. I've had to like glue weights under the base and everything.
I just think, why are they in the basic armor? Like, I know other people
Because they're long range. They're not like the multi-melter soldiers who have to get close. Plus, we wanted to do new sculpt.
Oh, they just look like they should have some kind of fancier armor. I mean, I guess they're supposed to fill the role of like straight up devastators, but they don't have the feel of that because it's just like they're in the regular poses that all the others are in. They're carrying their guns in the same way that they carry bolters with like the same amount of weight to them. Even though they're like 8 times the size.
I mean, they should at least have like the stabilization cuffs around their shins. The Devastator models.
Yeah.
They haven't even got that. It's just
give them stabilizers. I will say though, the Dreadnought looks pretty nice.
I don't know if I want a claw version of it, but it does look nice.
I like the extra armor on it.
Yeah, I think it looks better than the previous Redemptor because I had a bit of a problem with that because it was just too thin for its width and it looked like it could get blown over in a strong breeze. But the way that this is proportioned, I mean, it's obviously on the same frame, but it just looks like a better balanced model. I mean,
actually, these Space Marines remind me of the Mask. You know the scene where he just pulls out the guns and there's just a million of them?
Yeah.
That's what those Space Marines look like.
So for the audio listeners, we're looking at the Strike Force Augustus, which has 5 of the heavy intercessors, which are Space Marines with big guns. And then it has 10, which I'm assuming is 2 squads of these new super rocket launcher armed Marines. But as you may have noticed, as we're describing, the rocket launchers look like they should be on Flash Gitz, not Space Marines, which could be why I like them and everyone else hates them.
I would think that I would love them on my Orc. I would put those weapons on my Orc, in a heartbeat, but on a Space Marine, and especially an Ultramarine.
I would love them in like a custom chapter that was a little bit crazy and a bit out there. On standard Space Marines, they do have that. They're just a bit too silly.
This Augustus box also has the new Dreadnought, which is, as Tammy pointed out, and I hadn't noticed before, it is a little bit shorter. It looks like its hips are half the size, but its knees and shoulder and waist are in the same place. But just around its hips, it looks like that's been brought down a little bit. The new Dreadnought has twin weapons, the same in both hands, the same in both arms. The box build here has big claws in both hands, but I swear I've seen another build with non-claw fists and heavy bolters in both arms.
I can neither confirm or deny that, but I did get a spark of recognition when you said that. So
I mean,
I do in the preview.
I do like the multi-melters just sticking out either side of it, front carapace.
Nipple melters.
They're a bit low down. They're a bit low down unless it's like a really old Dreadnought with really saggy nipples.
Ab melters? Ab blasters.
Yeah. A D6 pack.
D6 pack. And the other joke that I'm bringing up again and again is that the second Command and Conquer game had a special unit called a Desolator.
Yeah.
That's what that was from.
Which more than one person noticed. Also, there was some comment in one of the other reveals that screamed Command and Conquer. So I sent it to the friend who's obsessed with Command and Conquer and Blood Angels.
Mm-hmm.
He probably didn't notice it because it's not Blood Angels. But shall we go on to the next thing?
Yeah,
the
okay,
next
so
thing.
Space Marines. They're
No,
okay.
wait, Tammy, you had strong opinions about the Lieutenant.
I do have strong opinions about the Lieutenant. I think it's a really, really good kit. One of my favourite Space Marine kits was the Space Marine Commander one, which they recently brought it back for made to order, but I bought it a couple of times back when it was still on the regular range, and it's essentially some very Space Marine captainy legs, a very Space Marine captainy torso with a cloak out the back, a Space Marine captainy backpack, and then a load of weapons options that were also compatible with all of the other Space Marines that were around at the time. So with your commander, you had like a choice of like 3 different heads or 3 different like totems, like a banner pole or a totem for the backpack. There was some chapter specific shoulder pads in there. There was a load of cool like mastercrafted looking guns and mastercrafted looking melee weapons. So it was just like a load of Space Marine bits, but really quite fancy. You had a lot of options and everything was compatible with the rest of the line. Now I know that's a pretty old kit, and it was kind of showing its age. It was the mold lines on it were pretty bad, but the idea of it, and I've been saying for ages that there should be that rather than waiting months or years for them to bring out a Primaris captain that is basically the way you want them to be kitted out, the fact that they've got this kit, and yeah, it's only a lieutenant, but you know, it seems to have that degree of customization built into the kit, and hopefully all those extra bits can be used on other Primaris stuff. Now he's also, it appears, although he doesn't have like a big like collar, it looks like he is in Gravis armor, which there hasn't been a Gravis armor lieutenant released. I mean, you just thought they'd have done it by now because they've done like about 500, but
I thought it was in regular armor. I was pretty sure.
yeah, it's
I think we've got captains in Gravis armor, but not lieutenants.
Yeah. It's when you look at the armor on his legs, on his greaves, that looks to have that extra sort of reinforcement that you kind of get on Gravis, but he doesn't have the big collar. So I mean, I'm not looking at a big image of him at the moment, but I noticed that earlier, so I was wondering if that's meant to be some kind of artificer armor. If there's like an option to build it with, you know, normal Mark 10 or Gravis Mark 10.
Yeah, that's like, not Gravis armor.
Yeah, but
could be.
But he looked more reinforced armor-wise, which is cool.
What is how to cut in half? We don't care about how to cut up potatoes. I don't know who Saint Decent is. Okay, so here's the captain in Gravis armor, and here's the lieutenant. Actually, now I'm not sure.
Yeah, exactly. I'm pretty sure it's normal Mark 10, but it has a couple of Gravis flourishes on it. So I mean, when they brought out the Black Templar stuff, there were
the toes.
You had the actual relics and stuff in the Black Templar upgrade pack. So I'm wondering if this like slightly more elaborate armor can be used as artificer armor, or it's just something sort of relic wise.
Okay.
But then it's like the Marine Commander bot. One of the melee options was a left bionic arm with a chainsword, and it seems that they've gone for like you have like a bionic left arm option with this guy, and then you've got hanging from his belt the Tarujas and the Reliquary. You can see that they're different on even the belt buckle actually is different between a couple of the builds. So yeah, there's a lot going on there. I'm wondering if
There's going to be a crotch plate.
yeah,
They've all got the same chest, but they're like cod piece is going to be different.
yeah. So I'm wondering if the options will be as extensive as in the old Marine Commander kit.
It would be good to have some real options on the new Primaris stuff.
I mean, that the captain that we've got on the right, the one in Gravis armor, that's the first Primaris captain that's had a real decent selection of war gear, because I think the first one they brought out, not including the one that came with the 8th head box set, but the first one was just had like one of the cool pattern rifles and a power sword, and then they did a event exclusive one which was a plasma pistol and power fist, and they've not really done much to make that option more customizable than what was available to the firstborn line. And I think this is them sort of catching up a little bit with the previous, like the firstborn stuff, like actual Primaris stuff that's got a bit of character to it, like that ties it in.
So
to the
is your thing about
line of the
Primaris, you don't like it when they're always just repeating and re-releasing firstborn stuff?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's like, I mean, I'm gonna compare this to a very bad
I was going to
relationship.
compare it to Marvel versus Ultimate Marvel, but I don't know if anyone will understand that.
That's a good comparison.
I'm comparing it to an old relationship where it's like I have my group of friends, and this person got into a relationship with me, and they assumed that they could have the same level of connection with my friends just by being with me. And that's kind of what I feel that Primaris did. It's like it was claiming the lineage and everything and all the lore from the firstborn, but not in any way that was actually meaningful. There's so much history to the firstborn, or what were just basically the Space Marines, and then along come these new ones, say we'll take it from here, and just not have the same amount of character. And that is the big issue I've had with Primaris Marines, and that was all the way through 8th. 9th, you started getting the Blade Guard, which are fantastic. I mean, they're not for every chapter, but for Ultramarines, the Black Templars, and Imperial Fists, they're great. But
they look like there's something going on there beyond Super Soldier. It's like Super Soldier from a 10,000-year war.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm very much hoping that Black Templars is marking a turning point. But then this stuff we're seeing now is like a regression almost.
Yeah.
Or at least I feel like the heavy missile launcher troops are.
Yeah.
A regression to just redoing everything as Primaris.
Yeah, basic.
Like it's they're not saying this is the new sculpt. You have to use the new sculpt to play with all the new aura abilities. They're not saying that, but it's what they're doing. So I thought it would be cool if Ultramarines could use unlimited Primaris and everyone else had to do something screwy to get their armies full of Primaris. Black Templar had... This is back during 8th when I didn't realize Primaris were the new thing that was going to be everywhere. So firstly, I think there's an issue with Space Marines of every model has to be available to every chapter, and I think that's dumb.
Yeah, especially for chapters that don't even use like the same terminology. Like with Space Wolves, you don't have Space Wolf captains, you have Wolf Lords. But then along comes the Primaris, and what you get is not a Primaris Wolf Lord, it's just a Primaris captain painted in Space Wolf colors.
So we got a mutual friend again who I'm not saying this to bad mouth the mutual friend as much as to illustrate a common thinking of people who play games but don't spend their waking hours and their sleeping hours obsessing over the design, why people enjoy them. So we've got a mutual friend who doesn't like the idea that your characters can die in D&D. I think it's a little more than a necessary evil for the characters to be able to die.
Yeah.
I think if there's no consequence of failure, you're not going to care. Or maybe you'll care if you've got this whole detached reality from what's anyway. So this friend doesn't like limitations in the tabletop games you play.
Yeah.
So this friend would be supportive of every Space Marine army being able to use every Space Marine model.
Yeah.
I don't want to argue against that.
But I mean,
However, I would think it was cool if there was something distinct about each chapter, such as Ultramarines being able to use every white bread standard type of squad, but other squads only being able to field a few squads of Primaris, and Black Templars always putting their gimps in their scouts in the squad.
Yeah, that's a interesting way they could move it forwards. What I think we're going to see from 10th edition and the supposedly Dark Angels versus Tyranids, I would like to see a very Dark Angels box, not just a box of generic Primaris Marines. And I know they've got the biggest incentive to
I'm more of a Taurus than you on this, but I think it's a Blood Angels versus Tyranids, not a Dark Angels versus Tyranids.
Oh, sorry, Blood Angels versus Tyranids. Yes, yeah. Dark Angels release obviously come in very much a similar time, though. What with the Lion?
That's the next slide. But
so yeah, should we move on?
Well, no, I'm not trying to say we should move on. I'm saying you're right. You know what you're talking about. Your neck pain has confused Dark Angels and Blood Angels. And quite frankly, if anyone listening doesn't understand why neck pain would make Green Angels and the Red Angels a little bit interchangeable, that person shouldn't be. You know, I mean, we're desperate for viewers. Listen anyway, even if you think Aimee's being silly with her.
They're both coming out basically over the next year, though.
Anyone who's mad about that mix-up probably doesn't have as many Golden Demon awards as you.
Well,
and I count the pins.
One of those 5 Terminators I painted is technically a Deathwing one, so it's a Blood Angel, Dark Angel.
Something
right.
So I got them confused as well. Not so much confused as I didn't care. I'm not made of pewter models.
So yeah, we're definitely going to be seeing those soon anyway, and I'm hoping they just bring a lot more character to them. Like, they could bring out a box that's like, oh, there's a very much Dark Angels champion or something, and then generic ones you can paint as any army. And I think people are getting very tired of that. It might not have the returns they're hoping on.
Yeah.
I think I said this in the FOMO rant, but they've worked out. They worked out when they invented Age of Sigmar. People don't have the time for like the 600 model armies anymore. And they can sell a lot more if it's a skirmish army. So how that relates to what you just said.
True. But here's the other thing, though. One of the most popular box sets they ever did was the Dark Vengeance box set. That lasted them like 2 editions, and that was Dark Angels versus like a Chaos Warband that no one had ever heard of. But people bought them because they could convert them, and they were cool models, and they were very interesting, and it really kind of promoted them for like 3 editions. Was it used for?
It was the box set for 6th and 7th, but I believe that they switched the rules around when 8th came out, and they still sold off the boxes that they had left over as almost like a secondary starter box for 8th. It was around for a couple of months at least as a thing, so yeah.
So I completely missed 7th edition, I think. But no, my understanding was they did 6th edition with Dark Vengeance, and then the rules had some serious screw up that they released
Yeah,
7th
six
edition
six wasn't around very long.
without reproducing the models, without like producing a new set. They just used the 6th edition box set, and we're like, no, this isn't 7th edition. Just don't hate us. And then like 6 months after Dark Vengeance version 2 was out, they were like, yeah, it's 7th edition. Thank God you like the rules, because we were panicking. The 7th edition had so I don't know if anyone can see this. YouTube viewers won't be able to see this because I'm not putting the cameras on YouTube because faces. I don't know if Tammy or Aimee can see this because I've got a horribly arranged living room. Not living.
I have a tiny little picture of you in the corner of the screen.
So 7th edition added a Chaos Champion rather than the 6th edition Interrogator Inquisitor or whatever the hell.
Varric Shattersalt or something? It was
Sounds familiar. For sake, we are waffling, but it's not even 8 o'clock, so that is horrible.
Yeah.
Unless you two are in pain.
I am in a lot of pain, so if we could move along. Okay, let's just get on to the next slide for now anyway, and
Hey! Soulforge! What's a Soulforge? I don't know what a Soulforge is.
Dun dun dun. Soulforges are the part of the warp dimension where all of the mechanical constructs are made, and this is stuff like your Juggernauts of Khorne, your Soul Grinders. It's basically the Demon Engine creation, and they make weapons and armories for the Legions of Hell. So obviously this new guy, Vashra,
Aimee,
sounds a lot like Valra.
Did you watch the live preview?
I did not watch it live. I did not watch the recording. I saw the videos.
You just showed up Goth Eddie.
Oh dear.
He didn't have that many words to explain what a Soulforge is.
They're in Total War Warhammer 3. In the initial like mini campaign that we've got, that's where Bellacor's kind of parked himself.
Bellacor's parked himself in one, but we're not talking about Be'lakor because he's apparently an Age of Sigmar minister because he's not doing anything in the Arcs of Omen. Instead, we've got this spindly who with the wings who's trying to be the 5th god of chaos, but is showing up in person to go try and punch Azrael and discover that the lion has never been in his tomb. The lion's been skulking around disguised as Cypher the whole time.
Oh, that's
wait, sorry, that's speculation.
Yeah, see, I don't reckon you're right on that because of the size thing. Cypher had a very specific role in the Dark Angels history, and I think he's going to be intimately related to the Lion's Return. But yeah, we're going way off topic here. Yeah,
the topic is this box set. We also got a topic when discussing 6th edition and Dark Vengeance, I think. And I blame myself. Yeah, no, we were off topic and discussing this box set of Dark Angels versus Chaos Cultists with a couple of super heavy Chaos Marines. Anyway, let's be on topic and discuss this box set of Dark Angels with a few Chaos Cultists and some super heavy Marines.
It's a box set. It's not particularly impressive. It's just you want these 2 new characters, you have to buy all this stuff as well. And maybe
it's kind of like they did with Gaz and Ragnar.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a bad selection, the Chaos side at least. It's all stuff you'd probably want to have, like nice new sculpts, all stuff that looks good, but it's not particularly mind-blowing or anything. It's nothing I'd go, yes, I already have a lot of Black Legion. I'm going to go buy that straight away, not just to get Vashtor. No.
Honestly, sorry.
No, I'm not going to rush out and buy it. I'll wait till Vashtor's out separately.
I have thoughts.
Go on.
But I don't want to interrupt because they're non-Space Marine player thoughts. Tammy, do you have anything to say?
Well, the only new models there are the 2 new characters. It's... The Deathwing kit is a really good kit, and you do have a lot of different build options with it, but the rest of it just looks like regular Primaris intercessors for the Space Marines, and you're probably better off grabbing a battle force or something, because I can't imagine, unless just like splitting it with a friend. I
think Dark Angels players are going to be like, we all know literally that there's new Dark Angels stuff on the way.
And for non-Dark Angels players, they can go, well, this is just a box of Chaos Space Marines.
Yeah.
Technically, I want the cultists, I want the Primaris, and I want the Terminators. Sort of would be happy with the 2 Devastators and the evil spider thing, but I already have all those models
it's a good box.
I have no interest in the special characters.
Mm-hmm.
And those are really the only thing.
And to be half honest, as well as wanting to be a whole bread, whole meal, healthy participant in group in social interactions, I wanted to hear if either of you were after just the special characters and we could wangle something, but if neither were after it.
Well, I've just bought Azrael. Granted, it's the original old sculpt Azrael. The similarity is so spot on.
It could be a video you paint both of them and compare them. I would love to paint Vashtor. I'm going to have to grab him at some point, I think.
And
I'm happy that the cultists are sticking around.
Oh, I do love these cultists. I'm so glad they weren't just Blackstone Fortress one-offs.
Blackstone Fortress and then Kill Team one-off. But if they're still showing up in these things, maybe we're going to keep seeing them.
Well, I mean, they're sold as sets now. You can just buy them as box sets without it being like the Blackstone Fortress cultists.
And it's not just like the Underworlds thing where they sell them for some period of time after they're available. They've added more characters for the Kill Team ones. We're going to make a long episode. No, so I'm really happy that cultists have been continue to show up. I do not know where they're going with the Dark Commune. I guess I was expecting more drama from that or more fanfare and excitement than just here's a set of cultists. It's 5 of them. I'm like, okay, yeah, no. Where's the specialist game they show up in? Are they for one of the American games?
Yeah, I guess. But then they do stuff like that. I think of it kind of like the Gobapalooza. Here's like the cultist champions that would have probably been too weak to bother using in a game of Warhammer 40,000 individually. We'll just kind of merge them in together into one unit that's got a bunch of attack. And it's like your leadership for the rabble, basically. And being someone who's very fond of Lost to the Damned, just any chance to get these weird and wonderful models. I painted that for Golden Demon entry, and I'm gutted that I misjudged things, and I feel like I rushed that one a lot.
It was still fucking beautiful.
I'd love to go back and actually paint them properly and with the full amount of time and not end up hating them at the end because they're not good enough.
Hi, Tammy.
Well, thank you. Right then, shall we move along?
Shall we, Tammy?
That's a very loud noise in the background there. Is that out your window, Aimee?
Apologies, yeah.
There's our progress, our feelings on Primaris Flash Gitz, and our feelings on Primaris Dark Vengeance. Stay tuned and subscribe for the Slan with a Plan, Age of Sigmar Overlord Roadmap, V for Bloodhunt, Part 6 is with the Witches, a tank, before a bonus discussion of the World Eaters. Coming soon to you, the happy leaves on the trees.